So basically now, with regard to ECS2602, it is a macroeconomics module. It is a macroeconomics module. By being macroeconomics, it's different from ECS2601. Last time you were doing ECS2601, right?
Yes.
And ECS.
So we were dealing with micro.
Yes, you were dealing with microeconomics. Okay, so you were dealing with economics on specified, on a specified scale, on specific sectors. That's why you were doing concepts that were related to households, such as the indifference curve concept, such as the budget line. Those concepts, they are only related to specific sectors, such as households. You were also doing concepts that were related to the cost structures of the firms, whereby you were doing variable costs, fixed costs. You remember those concepts, né?
Yes.
So in that way, you were specializing on a certain part of the economy, which is simply the firms. So now when we do macroeconomics, we are now doing economics on a wider perspective. This is a wider perspective. Ne? This is a wider perspective. Macro means large compared to micro. Micro means something which is very small, and macro now means something which is very large. So we are placing emphasis on the economy as a whole. Okay. So at first we are going to do a recap as our introduction. This is the recap as our introduction. What is macroeconomics? What is macroeconomics? So it is a branch of economics. So economics is subdivided into macroeconomics and microeconomics. And here we, since this is a macroeconomics module, we are going to place much emphasis on macroeconomics. So it is a branch of economics where we study the economy as a whole. From the word macro, macro means something which is large. Okay, macro means something which is large. Okay, so thus under this branch, we study the behavior of the society as a whole, not individuals. Microeconomics, we could only study how households behave, how individuals behave, or how only firms behave. But now we are studying the society as a whole at once, either individuals plus firms plus the government. So we are now studying economics on a wider perspective. Okay.
Yes.
We are now studying economics on a wider perspective. Is it making sense, ne?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So within the concept of macroeconomics, we have what are known as macroeconomic objectives. Okay. We have what are known as macroeconomic objectives. These macroeconomic objectives, so we are saying that every nation, every government it has the objectives for economic growth. The economy must grow. The economy of South Africa must grow over time. When we say that the South African economy in 2019 grew by 3.6%, that is an objective which has been achieved. Okay. That is an objective which has been achieved. And that objective is known as economic growth. So within with regard to any nation, with regard to any government, it has the objectives or it has the goals. So these are the same as macroeconomic goals. Okay, so every nation has a goal for economic growth. The economy must grow. And when we refer to economic growth, we are simply saying that GDP must increase. Okay, GDP must increase. Have you heard about GDP before? What?
Yes, gross domestic product.
Gross domestic product, yes. So we are simply saying that the gross domestic product must increase. Gross domestic product also means that the total value of goods and services, that are produced, the value must increase. Okay. Must increase. That's what we mean by GDP. So when we say if the economy have grown, we are simply saying that GDP have increased. Okay. And that is a very fundamental a macroeconomic objectives. Okay. The other economic objective is full employment. Full employment, now we are now making emphasis to labor itself. People must go to work. Okay. People must be employed. Okay. We must try as much as possible to reduce the levels of unemployment. Okay. People must go to work. That's what we mean by full. So this is another goal for any government you might think of. Okay. The other objective is price stability. The economy must not be subject to high levels of inflation.
Yes.
Prices must be stable. Prices must not suddenly change. When you go into a store to purchase a bottle of milk, still in the queue, you hear that the price have gone up. Scenarios like that have happened. They have happened in countries like Venezuela, in countries like Zimbabwe, whereby you could board a taxi. In the taxi, before you reach your destination, the taxi driver will tell you that the fee have increased. Okay, so that is a kind of that is an inflation scenario, and that is regarded to as hyperinflation. The time you board the tax is 50 rand. And before you even reach your destination, the taxi driver will say, it's now 70 rand. That is, you are experiencing a period of hyperinflation. So we do not want the economy to be subject to those dire states of hyperinflation. So hyperinflation is inflation over and above 50%. Okay.
Yes.
The other objective is the balance of payment stability. Now we are referring to the BOP, the balance of payment. So we are saying that the BOP must be balanced. The balance of payment must be in balance. So being in balance, we simply mean that the value of the goods that we export, must be equal to the value of the goods we also import. So exports must be equal to imports. Okay. That is a balanced balance of payment. Okay. And then the last objective is equal distribution of income. The equal distribution of income. In an economy, we must not have individuals whom are very affluent, whom are very rich. And in that same economy, we have individuals whom are very poor, unable even to afford a meal. And in that same economy, we have individuals whom are driving a V12 vehicles, parking 6 vehicles on the same yard. And then in that same economy, we have individuals that are failing even to buy a pair of shoes. So we must try to reduce as much as possible the gap between the poor and the rich. Okay.
Yes.
It's making sense, ne?
Yes.
Okay, so those are the macroeconomic objectives. Okay. We also, let's now take a look on the business cycle. The business cycle. The business cycle. So the business cycle is a pattern of upswings and downswings. An upswing is an expansion, a downswing is a contraction. That can be discerned in economic activity over a number of years. Okay, so we are saying that it shows us a pattern of change in terms of economic activity, whereby we have some periods of upswings and some periods of downswing. So this is a business cycle, and this is a period of expansion. After expansion, we reach a peak. After a peak, we start, the economy is now on a contraction side, and then we reach a truth. From a truth going upwards is an expansion, we reach another peak. And then from a peak, so a period, so you can see that a period before a peak, it's called a what? A period before a peak. What is the period before a peak?
It's a reaction.
It's a, no, this a recession. A recession is a period after. A recession is a period after a peak, and then an expansion is a period before a peak.
Before peak, okay.
Yes, before a peak, we experience an expansion, we reach a peak. After a peak, it's now a recession, yes, a recession. And then before a peak again, we have an expansion. Okay, so this is known as a business cycle. This is known as a business cycle. So on this axis, we have the level of real output, and then on this axis, we have time. Okay, so this is our business cycle. It acts like this. It's oscillating over time. You can see it's changing over time, eh? Over time.
Yes, but I don't see your drawings. I can only see a red dot only.
You can see a red dot. Okay, yeah, I'm not drawing. You cannot see this one with green here.
No, it's only red.
It's only red. Okay, okay.
Yes.
Let me check something. Okay. How about now?
Yes, I can see the notes now.
You can see the notes, okay.
Yes.
Oh, so you were not seeing these notes before?
Yes, I was looking from my notes.
From your notes, okay, it's fine.
Yes.
It's fine. So now we are saying that you can follow, right? This green,
yes.
with green lines here.
The
green line here, okay. So this one is our business cycle.
Okay, the green line is
yes,
business cycle.
Line. Yes, so it's changing over time. It's changing over time. It's changing over time. So you can see on this axis, we have real output, and then on this axis, we have time. So this is our business cycle. It's changing over time. It's changing over time, okay? So a period before a peak is an expansion. A period after a peak is a recession, okay?
Yes.
So this is a business cycle. This is what a business cycle looks like, okay?
Yes.
And this one is known as the trend. This one is known as the trend. This arrow here.
That's all, the dotted line.
Yes, dotted line is known as the trend. So it's showing us that over time, you can see that if we draw a straight line here, this peak is lower compared to this peak, okay?
Yes.
And this peak is also lower compared to this one. You can see that, yeah?
Yes.
So it's showing us that over time, the level of economic activity is increasing. Over time, the level of economic activity is increasing. Okay, we're now at this point, and from this point, we are now on this point. So the levels of economic activity is increasing over time. So this is our trend. This is our trend. Okay. Okay, I can delete those right now.
Yes.
Okay, so this is what a business cycle is. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so that was just an introduction, eh? That was just an introduction.
Introduction.
So the first topic now is an overview of the South African economy.
Okay, please hold for me.
Okay.
Sorry. Amazambane nama-veg lawa, yabo lawa angathi ano-broccoli lawa, ama-mixed veg. Yeah. Akhona labantu abasemgaqweni mazambane, cela wathenge ngaphakathi. I'm sorry for that.
Okay, it's fine. Okay, so I'm seeing from this side because I think I placed 1 hour on this class. So since it has started earlier on, I'm now seeing it's left with 6 minutes. So when it goes off, you can simply come back using the same link. Ne?
Okay.
Okay, so let's now take a look on study unit 1, overview of the South African economy. Overview of the South African economy. So we did define what economic growth is, and we referred economic growth to GDP. We referred economic growth to GDP. And we also did define what GDP is. We also did define what GDP is. And then we said that GDP is the total value, of all final goods and services produced in South Africa during
South Africa.
Okay. Is the total value of all final goods and services produced in South Africa during 1 year. That is the one we refer to as GDP. So the total value of all final goods and services produced in South Africa within 1 year. That's what we refer to as GDP. So whenever there is an increase in GDP, whenever there is an increase in GDP, that's what we refer to as economic growth. Okay, but however, to calculate GDP, we use 3 methods. To calculate GDP, we use 3 methods. These 3 methods, they include the production method. Okay, let me annotate for you. We have 3 methods: the production method, which is also known as the value addition method. We also have the expenditure method. Okay. We also have the income method. These are the methods that we use to calculate GDP. Okay. These are the methods of calculating GDP. And the value that you get when you calculate using the production method should be equal the one that you attain from using the expenditure method. So expenditure is the same as spending, eh?
Yes.
Expenditure is the same as spending, and it will also be equal to the income method. So if you calculate GDP using the production method, if you get an answer which is equal to 50 billion, it means also that if you calculate using the expenditure approach, you also get 50 billion. Using the income, you also get 50 billion. Okay, so the three must, you must attain the same answer. Okay.
Yes.
You must get the same answer. Okay, so from those three approaches that we said we can use to calculate GDP, let's now take a look on how do we use them. So at first, when we want to calculate GDP using the expenditure approach, what do we simply do? We take into account this small equation. This is the equation that we use to calculate the
expenditure.
Yes, expenditure approach to calculate GDP. So Y is our output, is the answer that we want to calculate. And then C is equal to consumption.
Yes, plus investment.
Plus government expenditure. Plus, this one is not complete. It should be X minus M. Okay. It should be X minus M is supposed to be Y is equal to C plus I plus G plus X. You did this in ECS2601, eh?
1601, yes.
1601, right?
Yes. Plus G plus X minus M.
Minus M. Some textbooks, that M they can put a set there. Okay, but it's simply the same. So this one is net exports. It is equal to exports minus imports. Yes, exports minus imports. So this equation is also known as the Keynesian identity. It is also known as the Keynesian identity. That's what we use to calculate the expenditure method. Okay, okay, I can see it's X as a net exports already. Okay, it's fine. But still, you can simply say X minus M. That's okay. Okay. So,
sorry, there's a need for me to buy a book?
No, don't worry about buying a book. Don't worry about buying a book, because these notes, they are enough, and that book is very huge, as you can see it. And at times when it becomes very huge, it becomes very difficult to follow. But these notes, they are very enough. You can get more than a distinction, 110%.
Thank you.
Okay. So, okay, now I'm seeing that I'm left with 1 minute. Okay. So